Are Green Berets good shooters? And I'm talking, are they good pistol shots? Are they good rifle shots? Are they good long gun shooters? And are they good with other things, machine guns, crew served weapons, things of that nature as well? Before I talk about the end state and what a seasoned Green Beret looks like, I'm going to set the stage and just walk you through what kind of marksmanship training your typical new guy Green Beret gets. All right. So I'm going to talk from an 18 X-ray perspective. There's plenty of prior service guys who go SF, earn their Green Beret, and have more training than this, but I'm going to talk about the baseline training. Okay. So you go to infantry basic training and advanced individual training. So AIT, all at Fort Benning, you get basic rifle marksmanship skills. You definitely don't get competent with shooting an M4 or a rifle. You get safe. So you get to a point where you know how to safely operate a rifle, and put rounds down range. I would not say you're confident or competent at all beyond just being safe and knowing how to handle a rifle and handle a weapon. Then you progress to the SFQ course. So if you get selected, you go through the Q course, and there's only like a week of real marksmanship training through the entire year and a half pipeline. So it's kind of the same thing as basic. It's almost a rerun, and you're learning how to safely operate a rifle. The range environment is a little different than basic training. You don't have drill sergeants yelling at you for every little thing. So it's a little more relaxed. So you're able to absorb the information a little better, but it's really reinforcing what you learned in basic. Okay. So that's all the training that you get before you go to a special forces group once you graduate the Q course. So you show up to group and you're safe with a rifle. You have no pistol experience, no long gun experience. You're basically, you know how to clear an M4, you know how to take apart an M4, and you know how to operate an M4 at a basic level. All right. That's about it. So the cool thing is special forces groups they have a new guy training, essentially, where you go and you get more range work and you do some range time. I think it's like a week long. That might be a little bit different. I don't know what the updated is, but you get that. It's basically a buffer from you graduating the Q course and you going to a team where they're saying, okay, here's some basic things that we want to teach you a little above what you got in the Q course and basic training or your prior service job, whatever you did. And it's good because I didn't do it when I got to group, but now they've implemented that. So it kind of bridges the gap a little bit. The real work happens once you get to a team. All right. And I would say, depending on the op tempo, depending on whether you're deploying or you're training, typically you're on the range for about a week every month. And obviously that's not like a concrete thing. So that's going to ebb and flow depending on the op tempo, right? But I would say on average, that's probably about right. And when you're deployed or when you're on a trip, you're on the range all the time, almost every day, just slinging rounds all day, every day, other than when you're doing other things like demo and stuff like that. But for the most part, you're on the range a lot. Okay. And that's really where the competence comes from. And it doesn't just come from you going and putting rounds down range. Comes from you learning from the senior guys on the team who have either been to advanced schools, like SF has a great CQB school. So usually, not a rule of thumb again, but usually there's about one guy per team who has been to that school and has learned the advanced CQB tactics and marksmanship, pistol marksmanship, rifle marksmanship, learned all the drills, learned all the POI that they can take back to the team. So that's really where you learn what you're doing. All right. So kind of a like broad progression for a new guy is once you show up, and this is very broad, but once you show up, you're safe. Okay. You can operate a weapon safely. You shouldn't at least have an accidental discharge or negligent discharge or anything that's dangerous that's going to put somebody else's life in danger. Okay. Then go through that week-long course or whatever it is, right when you get to group. You have a little more competence. I would say you're still probably just safe. Maybe you're not going to be putting tight shot groups downrange with a pistol unless you had previous shooting experience before the military. Okay, I will say that there are guys that show up who have shot a lot before the military, grew up around guns and all that stuff, and they're very comfortable and they show up and they're good right away. That was not the case for me. I was actually shocked at how hard it was to accurately shoot a pistol when I first showed up, because I was always good with the M4 and with the rifle. So I thought pistol would be the same thing. I thought it'd be super easy, but man, it was humbling for the first couple, I would say 2-3 months on a team. And a little embarrassing, to be honest. But the cool thing is you're on the range so much and you have so much consistency and repetition that through the drills and through the just exposure and constant repetition, you are able to get better pretty quickly at a pretty quick rate. So I would argue that, I don't know, maybe after 6 months to a year on a team, if the op tempo is what I was used to, at least, where you're on the range estimated 1 week a month, man, you get good pretty quick. And then to take it the next step, so that's just basic competence, right? That's not like where you're at a level where you're making low percentage shots, where there's combatants and non-combatants. So like very dangerous shots if you're not competent and confident in what you're doing. That is the next level of shooting, and that does happen as well. Some guys, it happens just because they put in the work, right? They shoot competition on the side, they do things on the side outside of work, and they're getting even more and more repetition. And those are the guys that are typically in love with shooting, right? And they live and breathe it, and they get really, really freaking good at it because they're putting in the time, even more so than what a typical GB does. So I was in Okinawa. Unfortunately, we didn't have like outside ranges, but our op tempo was pretty high. So we were training and deploying all the time, whether it was operational or whatever. And during those deployments, man, we were throwing thousands of rounds downrange every single time and just getting that consistency and getting that repetition. So you go from being I went from being a crappy pistol shot to where like I had no confidence in my shooting ability at all. Like we would shoot the plates and like it would literally like 1 out of 3 rounds would hit a steel plate, right? And then it got to the point where like if I missed, I was like, dang, what the hell happened? So that's kind of the progression. You get really competent over time. And that was mostly talking about pistol, right? Because pistol is one of the hardest things to master and to get good at, just because there's so much room for error when your barrel is, only 6 inches long. And a rifle, it's a lot more forgiving, and you have nice optics, and it's just a lot easier to sit and shoot a rifle than it is a pistol, in my opinion. So there's also in SF, there's sniper components, right? So there's guys who go to sniper school and they are in charge of teaching the rest of the team long gun fundamentals and sniper fundamentals, how to operate it, how to judge wind, how to judge distance, all of those things that go with being a competent sniper. So I would say everybody on the team has a basic level and basic understanding of sniper marksmanship. I wouldn't take it beyond that unless somebody goes to sniper school. Then they're obviously competent and confident behind the long gun. And then lastly, let's talk about crew served weapons and machine guns and things like that are not used as frequently. Like that's not your primary weapon, but you still have them. You still learn how to shoot them. So typically on an ODA, it's the 18 Bravo's job to maintain those weapons, to service those weapons, and to also stay proficient in those weapons and know how to use all weapon systems that a team has or a company has. So when you go to a machine gun range or something like that, or you're deploying, that's when you get exposure to all different weapon systems, 50 cals, 240s, 249s. I would say on those weapon systems, on the less frequently used weapon systems, I would say each Green Beret is competent in operating the weapon, like putting the weapon system into use, putting rounds where they want them to be, and troubleshooting basic malfunctions if they need to. That's where I would go with that. And obviously that's going to ebb and flow depending on whether you go on a 6-month deployment and you're shooting it every single day, obviously that's going to be a different story, right? So it really depends on where you are. But key takeaway, man, is you actually don't show up to group, and you don't, just because you get your Green Beret does not mean you're a good shot. And it really is an individual responsibility to refine your skills. And this goes into a lot of aspects of being a Green Beret, right? But shooting is obviously a very important one, because you want to be as confident and competent as possible, because at the end of the day, if you're a shitty shot, you're a liability, right? And you are not protecting the team, and you are not helping the team accomplish missions if it comes to putting rounds downrange. I've seen people who were on a team for 5-6 years and still weren't that good. And the reason for that is because they didn't take it to heart, like I just said. They didn't buckle down and say, like, this is my responsibility to do this. They kind of leaned on the I've been here forever, so I'm good enough type of thing. And that's not the norm, all right? That's the exception. That is the vast minority is like that. The vast majority of SF guys are very, very confident and very competent shooters. Once they get past that new guy hump, if you will, then they become pretty dang solid at pistol, rifle, long gun, depends on how much you're exposed to it, but pistol and rifle, bread and butter. I would argue every Green Beret, other than the small minority I just talked about, after 2 years on a team, is a very competent and qualified pistol and rifle shooter. So the answer to the question is yes, Green Berets are good shooters, but it does take time to get to that point. You don't just throw on that SF tab and voila, you're a good shooter. You got to work at it just like anything else, and you get to the point where you're good. So hope you got something out of this. Yeah, if you did, like, subscribe, comment, and thanks for watching. Have a good week.